that some of the experiences that I will share with you. I think this is an internal faculty of Viswabharati. And in regards to your Vice Chancellor, who's a good friend, and I will share my experiences starting from, I think, 1994, when I was director of AIU, Association of Indian Universities. And I got the chance to teach a semester during my Fulbright in the US. And I was also director of distance learning in University of South Pacific in Fiji. My last assignment was chairperson of National Council for Teacher Education, NCTE, which is a regulator, the government of India, for 3 years. And my last convocation address was, fortunately, West Bengal University, very good university. Vice Chancellor is a good friend, Swami Atma Priyanandji. Ramakrishna Paramahansa University in Belur. Basically, the campus is Coimbatore. I delivered the convocation address in Coimbatore and distributed degrees. And it was an excellent experience. You have given me, I'm a little relaxed because you have done an excellent thing. Unlike many others, almost every day I have some FDP presentations. Yesterday was Jamia Millia Islamia with the Vice Chancellor, Professor Nazma Akhtar, who is also an old friend, because you have given 2.5 hours, therefore I'm a little relaxed. We could have good discussion, I'm sure. And I thought it will be a larger faculty all over the country, but this is your internal faculty, which is very good. I think Viswabharati as a central university should now consider going for blended learning, which I will present to you. What I will do is that I will give you some foundational ideas about open and distance learning, distance and online learning, basically. Give some idea of technology, how technology could be used. Because technology, pedagogy should guide technology. We should not be technology dominated or guided, as it is happening in COVID times now, that almost everything is zooming and Googling, which is no way distance teaching learning or online learning. I will talk about that. I will talk something about pedagogy, which is my specialization. Vis-a-vis the teaching learning centers of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission for Teachers and Teaching. When I was chairperson NCTE, there was a 3-member committee, chairman UGC, chairperson NCTE, the NEPA vice chancellor, and the secretary education, granting teaching learning centers. I'm not sure Viswabharati had applied and got one, but certainly many universities, including the Ejpur Central University and many others. Basically, the central universities, IITs, is Mumbai, and quite a few others, Roorkee, Jamia, Aligarh, University of Delhi. They all got teaching learning centers. The basic idea was vis-a-vis the choice-based credit system that we must be following. I'll just touch upon choice-based credit system. That's not my idea of presentation here. But basically what is happening is, forget about COVID and the Zooms and the Googles and the kinds of things, which has almost induced every teacher to get into online teaching learning. It was a very good thing. And we must have some experience in that. And because now the National Education Policy 2020 talks about no distinction between face-to-face distance, online, and blended, and also no distinction between central, state, private universities, deemed to be universities, and institutions of national importance. Given this scenario, we are better placed to deliberate and take forward vis-a-vis the choice-based credit system, which needs to be revised. So also the National Assessment Accreditation Council, their procedures are also going to be drastically revised. So what we are getting into, given that 20% of the credit hours of the choice-based credit system, each student, if we say so, and the university permits, they will take 20% from SWAYAM. I'm not sure, Mr. Bharati, how you are doing, but then this is a national system which has provided a platform that we can blend, at least online with face-to-face. But that's not the whole idea of blended learning, which I'll discuss. So I'll discuss pedagogy. I will also discuss especially the MOOCs, which is in a way an online teaching learning. And I will give one or two case studies where we have implemented, particularly myself and my colleague. She is a technology expert and I'm a pedagogy. We joined together to offer a postgraduate diploma in e-learning through e-learning. For anyone who would like to join in, we had students from Intel, Microsoft, college, university, government departments, private organizations, business houses. And we designed such in the Moodle platform, keeping pedagogy very simple and technology very simple, all based on open source software, no cost at all to the institution, and in the Moodle platform, and which got the best national award from the Honorable President of India as the most innovative ICT higher education program in the country. I will give that as a case study based on what I would present. So basically, friends, let me start the business session. I repeat what I will present. I will talk a little bit about distance online learning, some of the foundational aspects, talk about technology, talk about pedagogy, and all three put together try to mix with MOOCs and online teaching learning and how these have been translated into action. I will give a case study of my Fulbright time in the US, a case study, very brief. Those colleagues, they did it. They specialize in quality online learning internationally. And our case study at the Indira Gandhi National Open University. So if you allow me, I will try to upload my PowerPoint. So if you are able to see these, just confirm to me that you are able to see these. Is my PowerPoint visible? Friends?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so excellent. So let me proceed with my presentation. We will have enough time because it is a 2.5 hour session if you have any questions you would like to discuss. So let me start with distance and online learning. You see, when we talk about any kind of learning, teaching learning, my PowerPoint is moving slow and there is a lot of sound from your side. If you could switch off your mic. Excellent. Oh, what is happening? There's a lot of sound from your side, friends. Please switch off your microphone. Is it all right? I get a lot of sound actually.
Mute করুন। হ্যাঁ স্যার, সুহাইল স্যার মিউট করুন প্লিজ।
মিউট করুন, এটা সাউন্ড আসছে। সো এটা কি বাংলা আমি পড়তে পারি না? প্লিজ টেল হিম টু মিউট হিজ মাইক।
আপনি কারেক্ট কাহা স্যার।
হ্যাঁ, ঠিক বলছেন তো?
ভালো বলছেন।
কি দারুণ। বলুন তো মাইকটা সুইচ অফ করুন। So anyway, so let me proceed to present. I will talk about distance and online learning first, very briefly, not to bore you much about this. There are certain pedagogic foundations. You see, what you see on your screen is a brief explanation, the kind of delivery strategies that are available today. One way or the other, each university is using these. But little clarification on this. But we say that we are on campus, we are the same place and time, and it is contiguous. We are face to face. There is a lot more interaction at the physical space between teachers and students, among students, within the campus, with a lot more support services that are available, library facilities, computing, and so on and so forth. We get a feel of a campus over there. When you talk about distance learning, the focus shifts from the teacher to the student that they have to do a lot more self-study by themselves. By the way, many students do not have the competency, the right competency to do guided self-study. Of course, mentored by the teacher, but basically it's a self-study at a distance with the occasional face-to-face interaction. And given the technology, which I will show as a case study, that every week we can interact, given this technology available to us, which is free of cost. And like your Zoom or Google Meet that you are using right now. So a lot more technology would come in when we talk about distance learning, but basically those technologies must be within a framework and a system which has been designed, guided by the curriculum design and pedagogy and teaching learning strategies, rather than technology dominating. In COVID time, we are dominated by technology. We have no alternative. We have to gear everything towards technology. But when it comes down to a blended learning context within a campus, certainly we have the choice and autonomy that how we would like to design that. But basically, the curriculum design is the basic. The delivery strategy would depend on how you have designed your curriculum. So designing a blended curriculum is very important because all of us largely we have been more dominated by face-to-face classroom teaching and lecturing, basically, which the choice-based credit system is trying to dissuade. But we are used to that, so we can help it. But we need to develop competency to get into a more sort of a blended learning, which is not only a combination of face-to-face and online and distance, but it's a basically blending within the curriculum. I will touch upon that and proceed further because the whole thing will take a week to discuss, but I will touch upon certainly. Third is online learning. Online learning, basically, when we use the web or the internet, right now we are basically into online learning. But e-learning is a larger concept, starting from the use of the audio-visual aids and audio and video cassettes, radio and television, teleconferencing, like in a full education satellite, which is uplinked from the IGNO campus itself for the whole country. And downlinks are available not only in IGNO centers, but also many others who are sharing the satellite time including the government of India, the private organizations, the NGOs, and so on and so forth. So e-learning is a larger concept within which we would like to locate online teaching learning. Blended learning is a mix of the web as well as our traditional teaching learning. In traditional, we do a lot of things, including seminar, laboratory work, so many things. And in e-learning, a lot more possibilities are there, which are not basically so simple in a face-to-face context, but very easy in online learning. If we can judiciously mix both of them with the competency by teachers as well as students. Unless we have competency, it's very difficult to deal with this. Because as a student of economics, basically myself, I would give an example by simply saying that there is a demand in the market that consumers will go to buy the products. Of course, the product is available. It depends on the pricing. But two things basically determine whether the consumers would actually buy. One is the willingness to pay. The other one is the ability to pay. I have the ability, but not willingness. I'm a rich man, but I don't have willingness. I'm a miser. I will not buy. Somebody who doesn't have money, but is always willing to buy, but will not be able to buy because it doesn't have money. So it needs ability as well as willingness. So therefore, this kind of blended teaching learning, which vis-a-vis the National Education Policy 2020 and 2021, we are looking forward to a program of a plan of action, which will determine that how we are moving towards new kind of blended teaching learning, both face-to-face and otherwise at a distance. So everything is going to be blended. Even today, that to no degree, in principle, no degree is blended, and no degree is face-to-face exclusively. It is blended because 20% of credit hours is allowed to be taken online from the SWAYAM platform. And therefore, we are already into blended learning. As a National Open University, right from the beginning, 1987, we have been into blended teaching learning with Convergence of Technology, face-to-face, laboratory work. And like, for instance, we are teaching surgery and cardiology. You'll be surprised to know very successful programs. Of course, the first degree is not allowed to be taken by distance learning, like the MBBS degree, but this is for the existing in-service doctors, especially those who are working in the primary health centers in the villages, and those who have their own personal clinics. They would be able to take the surgery as well as a cardiology program. Surgery program is chaired by very important surgeon internationally, Dr. Naresh Trehan, who established of late the Medant in Gurgaon in Delhi, Gurgaon in Haryana anyway. So, and the cardiology program is chaired by the topmost cardiologist in the country, Dr. Devi Sethi, Narayan Hridayalaya. I understand Narayan Hridayalaya has got also a branch in Kolkata, basically in Bengaluru. So the kind of programs that we are offering, we are basically into blended teaching learning. But in face-to-face campus contexts like yours, vis-a-vis the choice-based credit system, vis-a-vis the COVID and Zooming and the Googling, we are already into blended teaching learning. So given these competencies that we are acquiring, we need to blend these competencies within our curriculum design. I will discuss about that. Blended learning, so therefore, and there is a mobile learning. There are quite a few universities which are teaching through what is called a mobile technology. This is not mobile, by the way. What you have at your hand is generally called mobile. This is a handset. This is not mobile. Because it is mobile with you, therefore we call this as a mobile. It's not mobile. It's mobility is a feature of the handset that you have. By the way, your handset, which we are not using actually, the mobile technology, we are not using it. Even though we are using for certain purposes, especially for SMS service and quite a few things. But this mobile technology, many universities internationally are using the entire degree program through mobile platform. You must have seen a movie called Avatar. Avatar movie was the first 3D movie where you don't need an instrument to see the 3D version of the movie. You can directly see in the movie theater or at your home, provided your television is 3D. That movie gave us the first idea that how this 3D version could be, three-dimensional version could be used for communication, for learning, for teaching, and therefore it's not surprising that the platform that is used for that, which is called Second Web, you can Google it and find it out. The Second Web platform uses the software named after the movie Avatar, and the software is called Avatar. The Avatar software, creating a 3D version of that, and which is available in a mobile platform. The mobile has to be a high version of the mobile technology. Even if it is 4G, we do not have 5G so far. The handsets are 5G today, but we don't have a 5G available in this country so far. So therefore, mobile teaching learning is one aspect that we can consider vis-a-vis the social technologies and social networks. So our teaching learning within the classroom has been confined by the artifacts, including the library, the laboratory, the resources that are available, and the teacher and the students and the textbook. That has been our version, but it's not good or bad, I'm not saying, but we need to, given the developments today, we need to extend that, not come out of that, but extend that, including the mobile teaching learning and using 3D platforms. And 3D platforms have been very useful for medical education, especially for surgery, architecture, and quite a few such engineering and technology. They've been very useful. It depends on how judiciously you can mix them together. So let me proceed with this brief explanation to how distance teaching learning has come up internationally and how we are trying to look at this. As you see on your screen, a graphic representation how we came out of the classroom, and there have been many reasons why we came out of the classroom, because education became too elitist, and we needed to provide equality of educational opportunity as well as democratize education. Equality of opportunity for everybody, and democratization would mean that any group, anybody would like to take up a kind of course which is suitable to that person or that community or that group. We must be able to do that. Even democratization could also be applicable in the form of open learning, not open education. Open learning within the face-to-face classroom, depending on to what extent you are providing autonomy to the students to choose their curriculum, choose their pathways of teaching learning, especially learning, and go on acquiring credits. The new education policy, the National Education Policy 2020 talks about that. That each student will have a credit basket. There will be multiple entry and exit. It will be very difficult to handle because we all need to gear towards that. And technology has therefore to play a major role in this, not only in teaching learning, but also in administration, management, in finance, organization and delivery, communication, database. Our databases are very weak in this country, by the way, including including government organizations. And therefore, this distance learning, which started almost in the 19th century, they started with the first generation correspondence education, as they would say. They proceeded towards the second generation called Open University, including Indira Gandhi National Open University. And when technologies came in, they moved to a third stage. They felt that it will be essential that we need to be contiguous. We need to be face-to-face. In fact, the ICT regulation, even today, the Medical Council of India regulation, even today, even NCT, where I was chairperson, they said, if this is a professional program, the first degree has to be face-to-face. Along with that, the ICT, Medical Council, the Architecture Council, Pharmaceutical, Nursing Council, and many others who have prescribed that whenever there is a skill component involved, it has to be necessarily, compulsorily face-to-face. And therefore, face-to-face interaction is very essential for me, not only for hands-on experiences and laboratory work, but also there is an emotional dimension to teaching and learning. We need to be face-to-face, and that face-to-face could be synchronous or asynchronous. Asynchronous is very different. It's synchronous. Right now we are synchronous. If we can be at least face-to-face to each other, that also takes care of the emotional dimension of that. Of course, it doesn't take care of the hands-on dimension or the laboratory dimension. So therefore, from third generation, we moved to the fourth generation, where there was convergence of technology. Basically, friends, I will submit to you that there are three technological developments. Three. If tomorrow there can be something more, even including artificial intelligence, machine learning, or whatever they talked about, there are three basic developments in technology. The first development was broadcasting. We were very competent. India was very much up to date in broadcasting. The second development, which took place, in fact, which got into a wider scale of implementation when Sri Rajiv Gandhi was the Honorable Prime Minister and Mr. Shyam Pitroda was telecom expert, and they provided telecommunication facilities to almost all the 600,000 villages in the country. And that was the time we moved in telecommunication. And today, with the development of computing, the third technological development, computing, including cloud computing, because every machine, your mobile as well as your laptop, your desktop, every machine is related to each other. Even if you say that we are individual and therefore this is confidential, WhatsApp, Facebook, or whatever, nothing is confidential. People thought WhatsApp is confidential. To an extent it was. But when the Facebook, which is an open platform, which bought the WhatsApp, and when WhatsApp merged with Facebook, WhatsApp never remained as confidential, and WhatsApp is as open as we are right now, face-to-face or Google Meet or whatever, or a face-to-face classroom. Nothing is open today. So friends, two things in technological developments I must submit to you. One, that nothing is open today, everything is connected, and therefore it is now becoming difficult, people like Chinese or many others, to hack your computer. Even if you say, I have logged it, it is fingerprint protected and all kinds of things, but it can be hacked. This is first thing. The second thing is that anything that is available on the internet, I repeat, everything that is available on the internet is copyrighted, unless it is declared under certain international, I will discuss that, under certain international legal clearing house, that it is copyright free or it is open education resource. Otherwise, anything that is available on the internet is a wider disseminated basket platform. Therefore, anything that is available on the internet, everything is copyrighted. So please don't pick up even a sentence, even a figure, nothing from the internet. If you do that, there are ways to acknowledge, and therefore, to an extent, we can do that. I will discuss these things, touch upon these things a little bit. So friends, the convergence of technology, which your mobile represents today, your mobile is a convergence of broadcasting, telecommunications, and computing, including all developments of artificial intelligence, 3D platform, and machine learning, and all kinds of things that they are talking about. So your mobile is the converged platform. So when convergence happened, then people said that within the classroom, outside the classroom, can we think of combining a face-to-face and an online and the web? If we can do that, our pedagogic effectiveness and quality of teaching learning will increase, because a lot more facilitation will be possible, and there will be no constraint of time and space as it happens in the classroom. Of course, classroom would remain the basic, campus would remain the basic, but all these things can also join together. And when they join together, it has to be joined at the time of your curriculum design. Our curriculum design is very traditional in colleges and universities, and therefore our curriculum design has to come out. And when we of the tradition that we are into to a blended learning curriculum design with provision of more flexibility and with provision of a lot more autonomy to the students, which do not exist, which doesn't exist in the campus-based education today. So friends, to conclude this PowerPoint, therefore, the kind of blended learning that we are defining today is basically an American concept that we combine both face-to-face and online, because online is available to us, and today with open education resources and open source software, a lot more things are now free, and therefore we can combine at liberty. One submission here before I move to the next PowerPoint, that when we combine these, when we do a judicious combination of face-to-face as well as online, our pedagogy should determine to what extent we would be doing a blended learning. Let me get into blended learning to say what I would like to say. So openness and flexibility, you think that whether these things would be possible within the campus-based classroom education? Yes, this would be possible, provided we are geared towards that, provided we have the willingness as well as the ability. If we have ability but not willingness, we are willing but not ability, it will not be possible. Therefore, the National Education Policy 2020 precisely talks about this, that can we think of a flexible system where there will be multiple entry, flexible entry, multiple entry and multiple exit, credit accumulation, and students deciding what, when, and how to study themselves, but with restrictions. It cannot be as open as one can think of. There must be restrictions. There will be self-pacing by each student, and therefore you could do a curriculum innovation and some kind of a flexible learner support, including SMS support, mobile support, online support to the students could be possible. Therefore, blended learning, I think I'm missing some. Blended learning would basically mean three things. Can you therefore think of within the Vishwavarati campus, given that the Vice Chancellor, your statutory bodies adopt a kind of flexible approach, given that, I'm saying given that, unless that is there, you can't do it. So if you think that you would like to design a curriculum which will bring in these three aspects into that, and some of the chunks of the curriculum called credit hours, some of the credits can be distributed across these three major pillars of blended learning. That can you throw certain credit hours without teaching yourself to the students as the self-learning, given that the digital resources are available, open education resources are available, even textbooks. But textbooks are basically not self-learning. They are to be used by teachers to teach. So if we have self-learning materials available, which could be basically digital today, that you can put across to the students some chunks of the credit study as self-study. Face-to-face learning could be brought in whenever there is a kind of discussion, deliberation, seminar, and so on. Any kind of application, any kind of deliberation, any kind of interaction, not presentation, interaction, discussion could be face-to-face. The third component is online collaborative learning, that a lot more credits you could throw to the students that they themselves individually or as groups online, they will do certain assignments, certain projects, certain portfolios, certain case studies, all kinds of things, not practicals, like laboratory work, etc. And people talk about virtual laboratory, IIT Delhi, IIT Kharagpur, and many others have been talking about this, and I know very well what exactly it is. I was a lot more associated with Jadavpur University, their technology-enabled learning long back. I'm not pretty sure what exactly the situation today, but they were very rich in blending with an intranet available, not internet, not even a satellite communication. Satellite is wireless. Huh? So an intranet within Jadavpur University, I'm talking about 15, 16 years back when Professor Datta and many others were there. I was visiting and guiding how best it could be done, and they were doing an excellent work, I must say. So if you can think of a blending of these three within your curriculum, provided your university allows that, because National Education Policy 2020 says that tomorrow every university or institution will be autonomous to design their teaching learning the way they would like to design. Basically, the design for credit hours in your curriculum and teaching learning would be combination of self-paced learning, face-to-face, a lot more hands-on and interaction, and online projects and tasks and so on and so forth. Given these, therefore, given this, given this, the kind of, sorry, I'm not pretty sure whether my PowerPoints are moving in right direction, but given this, I'm very sorry that the PowerPoint is not moving. So given this, your blended learning would simply mean that it could be learner-centered. When you actually blend the kind of things that I said, that it will become more learner-centered, it will become more collaborative and interactive. You could think of higher order learning, which is called metacognitive learning, which will increase flexibility. Feedback would be immediate, and multimodal content would be made available, including digital resources, interaction, video programs which you can upload. You can even link to YouTube. You can link to open education resources, which will be part of your curriculum and which will be assessed. And today, all of these are outside the curriculum exercise and assessment. Whether students do or do not do, whether teachers use or do not use, it simply doesn't matter. But I think I'm losing one PowerPoint in between. I'm sorry, the PowerPoint is moving slow. What's happening, my friend? If you can see on your screen, e-learning. So therefore, your design of MOOCs, MOOC is basically an e-learning platform. The design of MOOC, when we talk about that, we talk about designing of e-learning. Friends, you see 4 components over here. You compare this with classroom teaching learning design, the way you design your curriculum, your teaching learning, your laboratory work, your interaction, your presentations, your seminars, all kinds of things that happen within the classroom. But when we talk about e-learning, basically 4 components need to be very seriously considered and designed. One is the learning management system, the platform in which you are going to carry forward your teaching learning, including blended teaching learning. The second important component is that digital resources in varieties of forms, depending on the discipline requirements. Every discipline has a different requirement, by the way. So therefore, that is the second component that we need to design or ensure that these are available to teachers and students. The third is interaction and interactivity. Interactivity as a component needs to be built into technological to ensure interaction. So therefore, interaction and collaboration is the hallmark of online and blended teaching learning. This interaction is happening within the classroom, but there is a constraint of time and space. Basically, there's nothing good or bad in any system, but the point is that there is a constraint of time and space which will be removed when you get into MOOCs or basically online teaching learning. And finally, the assessment would become much more, the assessment rubric would become much more flexible, much more wider, much more comprehensive, and much more integrated. Please be very, very careful for these words. These, when will be translated to a good assessment rubric for a blended teaching learning, especially online learning, will be much more sophisticated and much more higher order than what is happening within the classroom. So friends, a few things, I'm just giving an introductory presentation right now. A few things are in order. that plagiarism has become an important issue. The University Grants Commission has talked about very seriously that it is a criminal offense. The PowerPoint will be made available to you. I will not discuss much about this, but what I will touch upon is the concept which is called self-plagiarism. This is a very serious issue. This is what is called a recycling fraud. I will not discuss this. A lot more things are happening in this country, and some people have faced this criminal activity. Professors have been suspended, dismissed, and so many things happening. Self-plagiarism. We reproduce ourselves and say that this is another original work. This is not acceptable. We have to follow the copyright rules, intellectual property right rules that are available to ensure that your own work is properly quoted by even yourself. This much only I will say right now, because that's not my presentation over here. This is just an introductory that I'm presenting to get into the foundational aspect of technology, pedagogy, etc. It's just an introduction, scattered views which can be joined together for technology, pedagogy, and MOOCs. Friends, now open educational resources are available. Print, audio, video, digitized data, web links, YouTube and Facebook. These are social networks which are available, Facebooks and Twitter and your mobile phone and your WhatsApp and all kinds of things. These are we are using. There are hundreds. We are using only a few. These are hundreds are available. So therefore, all these open education resources, which finally became an official word in 2002 when the UNESCO declared that we can go for legally approved. I'll not talk about this much because my session is not about OER, but legally approved open education resources, which are teaching materials, learning materials, technology materials, facilitated materials, open source software which can help you to do certain things, which are virtual laboratories and so many things. But my point here is that when you are using something free, given to you to free, what is that free? I will discuss. So given it that is a free, but you should also contribute for free. I did a study and published in International Journal in my open university, whether the professors would like to share. So sharing has become an important concern here. Publishing is fine. API based on the UGC requirement is fine, but sharing is not happening. So the point here is that as much as you would like to get somebody else's resources or used by you and your students, so much you will also like to contribute to the world community to do that. So therefore, friends, using for free and contributing for free is essential. But there is a caution insofar as open education resources is concerned. The caution here is that when you are using a free material that is available, it's not that easy. As a student of costing myself, I most of the times think that what will be the cost benefit or the cost effectiveness or cost efficiency of the kind of resources that I'm using. If I develop my resources, whether it will be cheaper than using something, if I get something free, but then I have to ensure that this is simple, conversational, engaging with a lot more activities, must provide multi-perspectives, must be sensitive to culture and gender, and how hands-on would be available to combine to these, and what about plagiarism? So therefore, these need to be, I'm very sorry, there is somebody at the door. Give me 30 seconds, please. Andy, रघु तो ना यार तुम क्या डिस्टर्ब कर रहे हो काम कर रहे हो I'm very sorry, friends, because I'm alone at home, so therefore I have to do my task also. So what I was simply saying is that when we adopt open education resources, a lot more are available today. At the National Open University, my colleague, Professor Omar Kanjitar, who is in charge of the resource repository, almost 100,000 modules, 6,000 to 7,000 audio and video, They're available in e-Gyan course, free of cost for everybody. But these are not open education resources because we have not followed legal procedure to declare them as OER. But these are available free of cost to anybody. Anybody can use, reuse, and study, but can't use this for a commercial purpose. So therefore, open education resource should be considered by the professors in every discipline which are available. And therefore, OER pedagogy is based on 5 R's. Retain. When you create something, you can retain the ownership, you can control it. You can also allow to reuse. You can allow also to revise by others as per their needs and requirements. You can also go a step ahead to allow them to remix a portion of those your materials and portion of their materials and can remix. And finally, they can redistribute. But there is a one caution. The caution here is that there is a caveat. The caveat is that you can't commercially use these. You can't buy and share. For instance, that you can use OER by your university. Somebody would say that students are paying fees and therefore you are using this for a profit. As long as you are a non-profit organization and each university is a not-for-profit organization, we could do this. You can use this in the workshop, in the classroom. There is a copyright law available, and Indian copyright law, we must get hold of that. Indian copyright law also allows that. What I'm simply saying, concluding by simply saying is, before getting into technology is, I'm very sorry, it's moving very slow. So, I don't know why. That's right. So this PowerPoint will be made available to you based on your discipline requirements. I have selected some of the finer open education resources that are available globally. And the last one is Merlot, M-E-R-L-O-T. Merlot is one of the finest organizations in the world which provides you authentic resources based on your discipline. Fortunately, I'm a member of the advisory committee of the Merlot. Merlot also brings out a journal. I sit in the editorial board. COL in UNESCO, TESA, Open Learn of the British Open University, MIT, Open Course Software, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Creative Commons, the Chinese open source software courseware. It's called CORE, Chinese Open Resources in Education. So these are some of the selective that I have got which can be useful to you. But these are just the foundational presentations I've not got into. Now into technology, friends. I'm not sure the PowerPoint is not moving as much as I would like, but then I'm very sorry why this is happening. So anyway, so whatever is visible to you, to me it is visible synchronous, asynchronous. So when technology come in, starting from audio, visual aids, and audio and video, radio and television, to what is called social technologies and social network, and we are into Web 3.0. We started with internet, Web 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. We are talking about getting into Web 4.0 platform. So given these technological developments, two things that come to our mind is synchronous and asynchronous. These two principles will guide us insofar as use of technology for your teaching learning is concerned, because every technology can be divided between these two. Right now we are synchronous because we are this. We are at the same time. We are not at the same place. If we are at the same place, same time, then it will become a classroom. We are at the same time but different places. Right now, the Google presentation or interaction is going on. So we are synchronous. But when you send an email to somebody and that person takes time to read and reflect and respond, then you are becoming asynchronous. So therefore, these two principles you would like to, insofar as technology is concerned, to judiciously mix and use them. I don't know, my PowerPoint is not moving actually, friends. I'm very sorry. Second, I'm not giving you a technological development per se, but then I'm telling you that to what extent we can bring in, derive. I'm doing a derivation from technology. So one is synchronous and asynchronous. The second one is that some of the free open source software and platforms that are available today with us. One is blog, another is wiki. These two, at least, we can use in the classroom. So also in blended online teaching learning and in MOOCs more specifically, which we did. The example that I will show as a case study, we did that and we included that in the assessment strategies, because the learning outcome, that the product that will come out of that, including the students' understanding as a product of that, could be assessed also. If you make that as a part of your assessment, then certainly the students become very serious, and so also teachers become very serious. You see, one thing that is coming to our mind is that in teaching learning, that when we are contiguous, learning, much of learning takes place when we go out of the classroom. We reflect on that, consult textbooks, discuss with others, and so on and so forth. We reflect on that. So therefore, friends, without getting into the whole story, how reflection came into, but you could get hold of one book which has contributed significantly to multinational companies and management business houses. It's called Professor Donald Sun, who was the Harvard MIT professor, who wrote a book called The Reflective Practitioner. I think with that, what we have got into is that reflective practice in teaching learning, which is not happening, might be happening, you might be doing it. It's not a common theme for all of us, or all teachers and all students. A reflective practice. What he said was reflection in practice and reflection on practice. So reflecting while doing and reflecting after doing. So reflection as a strategy, serious psychological strategy, facilitates both teachers and students to increase the order of learning to a higher qualitative level, which might contribute to what is called a metacognitive learning. And provided there is a serious use of what is called a self-regulated learning. So I think you could write down these words, you can Google them, you can study about them. There are strategies available. Self-regulated learning, that helping each student, helping each student to locate and identify their own skills and use that to the best possible way for teaching and learning, especially for learning. So teachers' job is to mentor and to help and facilitate. That's all. Students will do theirs. Metacognitive, you go beyond your cognition to ensure that you control and manipulate your skills, your abilities, your attitude, your motivation, your interest, everything as a part of your personality to handle that. So blogging, if we use blog, what will happen is that it will increase the reflective practice of each student. So blogging is a personal space that we're providing each student to reflect. And when we use a wiki is a collaborative space, both are free, of course. Wiki, we can bring in for a community reflection, that a group of students joining together, doing a project together on the wiki platform. What will happen is that this blog and wiki, that midpoint that you see, this is called that we agree to certain meaning. We deliberate and we agree and we disagree to a certain extent. We agree to disagree also. So these two, as open source software available, not software, as platforms available today, would facilitate our teaching learning much better. Friends, let me get into what is called pedagogy. And all these I will try to apply to MOOCs and a case study that I will present to you. You might be thinking in different disciplines, what basically is learning all about? What I've written here from my experience is that learning is a change in understanding, certainly yes. Understanding could be at varieties of levels, up to a creative innovation level, that's fine. But this is an understanding is practice in social context. Whatever is happening within the classroom, in the laboratory, this variety is a little different as I understand. Viswabharati has provided the school community, the university, institution and community relationship is much more in Viswabharati than elsewhere. Because elsewhere it is all isolated. That whatever we learn and teach within the classroom, in the campus, it's not translating into direct action or application into the community, society, and family that we live in 24/7. That is the aim of education. So therefore, learning would, there is a Chinese saying, Chinese proverb, this is a Confucian old Chinese proverb, which says that I hear, I forget, and the last sentence is, I do, therefore I learn. So therefore, doing and learning is very important. You learn when you do yourself, whether it is an assignment, whether it's a discussion, whether it's a seminar, it's a laboratory work, it's an application, and anything that you could design, varieties of things that you could design. And that's what I would show, that this one platform, which is providing a 20% MOOCs to the students, is lacking in that, basically. It's a national platform, it is lacking. I will discuss these things so that you get an idea what exactly is the situation today, how things are happening internationally. So learning is a change in understanding and practice in social context. That it must involve practice. When I was teaching a semester in the US, long back, almost 17, 18 years back when I was there as a full-price scholar, I was 2.5 hours class, I was giving a lecture, and then I started after 10 minutes, a senior citizen got up at the class and said, Prof, look, you are doing all fine, but what you are doing all bullshit. I said, why do you say so? He said that, look, what you were saying is all available. What we expect from you is that you say something that you have applied, and what's the result of that? What are the findings? And we'd like to discuss, we'd like to join in, we'd like to consult some resources available, we'd like to do an assignment, and so on and so forth. This is how teaching learning takes place. So more collaboration and engagement in activities. This is precisely not happening. Collaboration, because our culture, we are suffering from our cultural, as Sri Amartya Sen said in his book, The Argumentative Indian. He tried to define what an Indian is all about, and must have read that book. So what he said, that we can argue to the best intellectual possibility available to the world, that we are the best arguers, that we can argue to the most. So when in the University of Delhi, they introduced the 4-year undergraduate program, and my son was the first and the last batch in that, and which I can vouch for. I've gone through that process. One semester, 2 semesters more were introduced for 2 different kinds of skills which are lacking, which the National Education Policy is talking about. I think one PowerPoint I have on that, which says that social and life skills and happiness skills are not part of the curriculum, and therefore 1 semester should be devoted to that, and the 2nd semester should, in fact, the national policy says that it should start from the school level. That is the ability to investigate it, to do research. So the research skills equivalent to 1 semester and happiness competencies relating to 1 semester led to a 4-year program. But what happened, with all due respect to my colleagues in the University of Delhi, what happened basically was that we did what we are best supposed to do, or we are best at doing, by the way. So we gave an excellent lectures on social and life skills, whereas in the website it was written that social and life skills will be learned by living through. By living through in the process, you have to live through to learn. This is precisely what I'm meaning here. So therefore, if that living through is relating to the social context, because every teaching learning takes place in a context. If you go out of the context and say something blue out of the blue, and this becomes too abstract, and therefore our teaching learning today is of a very high intellectual order, but it is too abstract. It has very less applicability to our life, where we are living, where we are standing, where we are eating, and our everyday business. We must talk about that, and therefore our mother tongue becomes very essential. Mother tongue is very, very essential. We are communicating in a foreign language, by the way. This is not our mother tongue. In a mother tongue, we would certainly do better. More creativity would come when we engage in mother tongue. I'm sure you would appreciate that. So what Professor Amartya Sen said, that argumentative Indian, we are very good at arguing. We can give an excellent lecture on doing, we will never do. That's precisely what I mean. I mean, you can't generalize that, but there are exceptions always. But this is precisely the point. So therefore, I think learning will be an engagement in the context where we are teaching that concept. That concept, whether it is science, technology, medicine, or whatever, there is a context to that. The context is the place, context is the time, context is the activities involved, context is the community, context is people, culture, language, politics. Everything is context. Within that context, we must relate to that, which is not happening. And Viswabharati was created basically to bring learning, teaching learning to the context, especially learning to the context. I'm pretty sure that must be happening more in Viswabharati than many other universities. I think you can better appreciate what I'm saying. But then we need to design it in such a way that we get the real learning outcomes the way you expect as teachers, at least. Students have their own expectations, but at least it's good. I'm extending this a little bit, simply saying that learning occurs across domains. We are so confined to our discipline, and therefore national education policy talks about interdisciplinarity. The choice-based credit system provides you 4 kinds of courses. Discipline core, second kind of courses, interdisciplinary, third kind of courses, social life skills and happiness skills, fourth kind of courses, which is not happening, national policy talks about that, the employability skills, the professional skills, the job skills, vocational, whatever you would like to say, relating to your discipline. Every discipline contributes to certain professions, certain vocations, certain skills, which should be built in. So therefore, our teaching learning is not becoming interdisciplinary, which it needs to be. So therefore, learning actually occurs across domains. As students, I look forward to varieties of other disciplines because ideas come from almost so many disciplines. But we teach based on our discipline. And there are sites. Site is a very specific connotation. I think you can Google and learn about that. And it is contextual and situated, and therefore you could also Google it and find out. And an interesting development in American discourse is called a situated cognition, they would say. So because our cognition is situated in our context, so therefore context, cognition, and situation, these 3 things you could learn, which I don't have much time to talk about, but then my PowerPoint is not moving, my friends. And finally, to give a set to final pedagogy that I said, that learning happens in a community, learning happens in networks, learning happens in contexts. These 3 things relating to your discipline, how would you like to design this in your curricula? This is very important. And all these things we can translate to a technology-based platform or technology-based networks. Because technology is a facilitative mechanism only. Technology would not decide pedagogy. We would decide as teachers. Of course, we can consult with students, the past students, their experiences, their needs, their prior experiences. And from time to time in the semester, we can discuss with them their new experiences. That's how teaching learning takes place. I think why should we as teachers think that we have the mastery of knowledge and therefore we have to give to students? There is no taking and giving in this process, by the way, friends. It's a more collaborative, it is becoming more constructivist, that we engage in the community. You should get into, if you would like, John Levy and Levin Wenger, they wrote a book working in the potters in Morocco, in Northern Africa, with the potter community. They wrote a book was called Situated Community of Practice. That was basically about legitimate peripheral practice. So it's a very interesting work, how learning takes place. That and you must also study Lev Vygotsky. Vygotsky in 1930s wrote about situated learning and social constructivism, how language is used in the culture, in the community to teach and learn. and he talked about Journal of Proximal Development and so on and so forth. And it got translated in the 1960s. By that time, people said that John Dewey was probably the best educator in the world, who talked about project-based learning and democracy and education, and learning is democracy, and democracy is learning. So Vygotsky became more important, and you must study. So therefore, bringing all these ideas together and to put in a context, put in a framework, I would simply say community within the campus, community outside the campus, networks within the campus and outside the campus, and context of the campus, context outside the campus, because a student who is studying with you has varieties of context, including classroom, and the campus is a context, is one of the contexts available to you. So I think, friends, I hope by this time you have already reflecting on these foundational aspects that I'm talking about. So therefore, I'm not pretty sure what exactly is the next PowerPoint. It's not moving, actually. So whatever is visible. So friends, what I'm simply saying here is that whether it is face-to-face, distance, online, or blended, there are some foundational principles of teaching and learning we need to take into consideration, whether you are teaching within the campus, at a distance, online, or MOOCs, or whatever. It doesn't matter. What is transmission? That how you are transmitting your information. UGC says, the choice-based credit system says that you reduce your lecturing as much as possible. Transmission would also involve a lot of self-study, swadhyaya. A lot of West Bengal is one of the finest examples of self-study. Libraries in the villages, the place, my state, Odisha, is also a place. I recall my childhood that where every village had a library. But today there is nothing. They said everything is available on the internet, in the mobile. And still, even if it is available, nobody's using that or using for something else rather than for teaching and learning. So therefore, the transmission of content becomes very important. Second, action and interaction. That what students do, how do they interact, and what exactly they do when they learn from textbooks, learn from digital resources, learn from your lectures and laboratory and so on and so forth. Three, that how do they collaborate? Collaboration involves a lot of values. Values of sharing and respecting is one important aspect of collaboration, which is almost neglected in teaching learning today. Reflection, I talked about that. This leads to a higher order metacognitive learning, and assimilation. That आप उसको बोलते हैं कि मेरी जहन में चला गया. That it has become part of me. I mean this, and empathically you can argue the case. That's a very higher order learning. I will rush through these and get into MOOCs and my case study quickly. So friends, these two dimensions, there is nothing left and right in this. Ideologically, these are all psychology and pedagogy things. Behavioristic and constructivist. Our teaching learning is a lot more behavioristic today. Viswabharati was established basically for a constructivist teaching and learning. When it was established, people even never talked about constructivism. Guru Rabindranath Tagore, when he talked about that how teaching, learning, and community, they are inseparable. And today we have come back to the same old story, telling that this is constructivism. Well, if it is so, that's fine. But what I'm simply saying is that we cannot neglect any of these. Sometimes there is a direct instruction, lecturing necessary. Sometimes you would like that students engage themselves and construct their own meaning and come out with something which will be unique for every student, for instance, and which should be unique. Even twins learn very differently. Twins even learn very differently. You learn the way you perceive. I learn the way I perceive. You learn for yourself. You don't learn for me. I learn for myself. I don't learn for you. But there is a but. We are not in the isolated individuals in the community of practice. We are all connected to each other. Therefore, our connection should be part of our exercise of teaching and learning. Then learning becomes full and complete. When there is an individual reflection, there is a collective reflection. because these two will be translated into the community of practice, to my family, to my job, to my workplace, to the marketplace, everywhere. It cannot be separated from our teaching and learning. Today they are isolated. So therefore, friends, what I'm simply concluding saying here is, sometimes it will be instructivist, sometimes it will be constructivist. Instructivist is more abstract. Our teaching learning is more abstract today. We would like to make it as much concrete as possible. In my semester, that senior citizen told me, my student told me, Professor, whatever you are teaching, you always concretize that. Give multi-perspectives, give multiple examples. And if you could help us to apply that, there'll be nothing like that. So the American pragmatism tells us that I believe whatever I can see and I can do. I will not believe whatever I cannot see, I cannot do. Well, that's a little different from our Indian philosophy, traditional philosophy, we say, of Swami Vivekananda or Aurobindo for that matter, many others. Our Indian philosophy, Advaita, or whatever you say, that it's very different. But then, if you become more scientific as an international comparison, then they would say that we will believe whatever we can see, we can do ourselves, or we know how to do that. So don't talk in abstract. Learning by experience. This is basically based on experience and learning. Learning by experience, learning by diversified means, not only cognitive, psychomotor, especially affective, interest, motivation, music, art, and all these things are part of it. And therefore, it's not surprising that the National Education Policy 2020 says that for happiness in life, let us build a foundational liberal arts curriculum to all the disciplines across the board, whether it's medicine or engineering. And now it has come, art, culture, which has now come back saying that this must be foundational to all curriculum across disciplines, irrespective of disciplines, because this foundational is contributing to wholeness of human personality that is called happiness. I'm not getting into that much because the Human Development Index today is now Human Happiness Index. And our neighboring country, Bhutan, used to be the happiest country in the world. People say, how is it possible? It's a poor country. How could it be? Well, poverty and happiness, the richness and happiness, they're not related to each other. Happiness is something, and if you get into our Indian philosophy, happiness is much more than what the happiness index is talking about, by the way. Now, friends, I will bring in the professor's idea with George and my comes sometime back in Istanbul in an international conference in Turkey to keep two keynotes together on the same platform. And this young guy who still says we have made it more complex. He gave an idea by saying that this could be a learning theory for digital learning theory for 21st century. People said, well, yes. He said this is connectivism. What precisely says, you read the PowerPoint later, what precisely says, he simply says that information explosion is rampant. Information today is available in networks. Earlier it was available here and there, but now networks. And information is chaotic. And always there is a shifting stand for the information. Information was today here, today, tomorrow there, and it is almost shifting. So what's the point? He said the point is that as teachers and students, we must develop competencies to effectively navigate in a chaotic, shifting information network to achieve our learning outcomes and learning goals. Precisely the point. Well, this is a very difficult thing. Your mobile is available, your social technology, social network, your Facebook, your Twitter, and all kinds of things are available. But I'm confused. As a teacher, if you have to design all these and bring them into your curriculum, then activism would facilitate you to do that. Now, friends, I just picked up the PowerPoint. I have given the acknowledgement. How to go from this red to the blue or to the sea blue, from passive learning to active learning. Vishwabharati was basically for this, that active learning. Learning is an engagement in activity in the community. Learning is experiencing by engaging in activity in community. This is precisely learning, whether classroom, distance, online, whatever, MOOCs, whatever you talk about. And MOOC is in fact restricting all of these. I'll discuss this. So I think I must move fast. I should give you some time to deliberate and discuss also. So how to go from passive learning to active learning. Let me move a little fast. My PowerPoint is now moving fast, friends. So that's right. Now we are coming to, they call it 21st century skills or competencies. What is basically that? Choice-based criticism talks about that. The National Education Policy 2020 talks about largely devoted a lot of space in discussing these. What are these skills, by the way? If you combine all the competencies of life together, I think from the literature, I've derived these skills, which you could still think that you could expand this, you could add to this. Our discipline skills are very important because we study in a discipline. Employability skills, which is not happening, which need to be built into. When we talk about employability skills, certainly the National Skill Qualifications Framework, which is internationally now competitive, the framework of the Skill Ministry comes to the picture, which we need to consider. With the Government of India and all regulators, AICT, they said that you need to consider. Well, fine, we will consider that because they are internationally competitive competencies and skills. Fine. And life skills and happiness skills. Technology skills is an important cognitive skills, not happening. Even if you say that you are engaging in Bharati, for instance, you are engaging in art, culture, doesn't necessarily mean that we are consciously developing self-regulated skills of students and their metacognitive skills. We should form a part of our curricula, not a separate course, but through activities, through teaching learning strategies. Even technology could also facilitate that. And learning to learn skills, which is very important. Very few of us are into these skills. Many are excluded from this. They simply say, I need not learn anything. Even professors, they feel that I have become a professor now, and therefore I will not publish, I will not do anything. This is not good, because you are a professor because you are supposed to now, as a starting point, to contribute to scholarship of teaching and learning. And scholarship of teaching and learning almost is stopping when we become professor. Not for everybody, but generally. But this is not good. So what I'm simply saying is this 21st century competence to be the art and culture and so on and so forth into the curriculum. So it has to be a holistic curricular practice, whether it is MOOCs, whether it is face-to-face, or whether it is. I think this table, which can facilitate you to translate your curriculum into this matrix, but my stress is, you could use that, but my stress is somewhere else. My stress is that how do you say that when the University Grants Commission says that you have to follow an outcome-based learning? I'm pretty sure you would have seen that regulation of outcome-based learning, which is very good, and they've given examples of varieties of disciplines of undergraduate and postgraduate, how to do outcome-based. It's a wider comprehensive program, course, and module and unit competencies, outcomes. What I'm simply saying is that if you're translating learning outcome as a good human being, I don't know what does it mean, but if it is a learning outcome is a good human being, after the completion of this program, you will become a good human being. If it is so, if it is the learning outcome, I would simply like to see that what kind of activities you are designing for students to engage those activities to become good human beings. We need to specify that. We cannot leave that to every teacher to do the way they would like to do. If you would like to do the way you would like to do, what is wrong in specifying that? That's precisely the point. If it is so, can you simply design your assessment strategies which can translate that learning outcome into achievement by the students? This is a very simple thing. We need to specify this. We are doing this, but we need to specify for others to see, others to learn, and so on and so forth. This is what is coming to the table today, friends. I will skip this about reflection I've talked about. I published a chapter in the London book and collected all learning theories into a platform as this. Now, friends, let me get into MOOCs. We have talked about distance learning, technology, and pedagogy. Therefore, when we get into MOOCs, They say this is a massive open online course. A course that you are giving face to face, if you throw that course, which is limited to 20, 30, 50, 100 students, if you throw that as a course which could be available to millions of students, the edX, Coursera, the MIT courseware, the British Open University Open Learn, and quite a few others, the Khan Academy, for instance, the videos and the courses that are available, they're all available free of cost. But of course, you have to pay if you want the credit to be transferred to a regular face-to-face study full time, you have to pay for that. Otherwise, most of the courses are free, MOOCs are free. So friends, these are MOOCs. Then somebody said that big open online course, massive and big. Somebody would say distributed. Somebody would say small private online course. When the University of Delhi was asked to initiate MOOCs, that they argued that we will initiate what is called small private online course. We will not go large scale, we will go small. And there is a synchronous massive online course, and there are many terminologies available. Friends, that's my 2 PowerPoints or 3 PowerPoints are the crux of the story. All these things that we have discussed so far, when you look at the SWAYAM MOOCs, which is based on the edX platform, not Coursera, the edX platform, where SWAYAM is based. The SWAYAM is called an X MOOC. When Professor George Seaman, I gave you the example, and there is another guy, Professor Stephen Downes. These 2 guys, they started for the first time in the world a MOOC. That was based on the theory of connectivism of George Seaman, which was more collaborative, more engaging, more reflective, and more creative. I'm consciously using these words, collaborative, engaging, reflective, and creative. If you look at these, your present SWAYAM platform is based on an LMS called SWAYAM. There are learning outcomes, there are video lectures, there are assignments, there are discussion forum, additional resources, and learning analytics. Learning analytics is basically that the students, their progress, and you can, this kind of a database, an analytical database of the student progress. So this is what is your MOOC today. And therefore, your 4-quadrant approach my PowerPoint is not moving. I'm very sorry for that. A lot of PowerPoints I'm losing in between, but you will get to know when you get a copy. So, oh, my friends, I'm not sure what exactly is happening. My PowerPoint is not moving. So I'm a little handicapped, therefore. I missed one thing which you could consider if it is visible to you, called a portfolio. Both formative and summative portfolio. And portfolio is as much essential within a face-to-face context, so much easier to do in an online context, in a MOOCs, not exactly in MOOCs, but in online teaching and learning, which I will show in my case study. I'm very sorry, it's not moving. A lot more PowerPoints I have lost actually. If it moves, it will be very good for all of us. That's right. If you could see, if it is visible to you, the SWAYAM platform, the 4-quadrant approach, e-tutorial and videos, audios. Then your quadrant 2 is the e-content. The aspect 3 is the additional web resources. And aspect 4 is self-assessment, including especially quizzes and multiple choice questions. This is your platform for your SWAYAM. Could you therefore, this is essential because it is a national platform, everybody does the common minimum that is given there, which is one way of, one framework of looking at teaching and learning. But friends, all that we discussed so far, do you think that your 4-quadrant SWOM provides that? For me, certainly not. It is an X mode based on edX and such other formulations and platforms. It's not a connectivist mode. Connectivism-based MOOC will talk about more connectivism, more collaboration, more engagement, more interaction, more reflection, more creation, more innovation, which is of higher order learning, which is not happening. So therefore, in a connectivist MOOC, if it is visible to you, that there is a lot more learner choice available, learner autonomy is there, diversity of tools are available, cooperative learning, community of practice is interactivity is a part of that. Open pedagogy, open sharing, and open educational practices. I have no time to discuss these, but this is the hallmark of the MOOCs or the connectivist MOOCs, which is not happening. It's a hallmark of the teaching learning, online learning, blended learning. Even in classroom learning, we can talk about open pedagogy, open sharing, and open educational practices. This is now coming to the fore as the crux, friends. I repeat, open pedagogy, open educational practices, open learning, and open sharing. And therefore, social media, which can be blogs and wikis and kinds of things, can be used seriously to design and translate the teaching and learning. And the networks could be brought in, metacognitive knowledge, and so on and so forth would be happening. What are the perspectives that we need to consider? You could consider more, but I have jotted down a few. Professor Bates, who is a senior but an old friend from Britain, now settled in Canada, internationally highly respected. He has thrown a book. If you wish, I can email you an open book. It talks about quite a few things about pedagogy and technology. He's an authority internationally, by the way. Because in 1988, when I visited Britain for the BBC training, he was there. I met him. He was young. I was also young. He's now old. He's retired. We are yet to retire. He says that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 5 important things we need to consider whether we talk about technology enables learning. Transmission, which we have already discussed. Apprenticeship, putting theory into practice. And therefore, it's not surprising that when I was chairperson of NCT, I said if there will be a change under the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court of India, Justice Burma Commission, Justice Burma was the Chief Justice of India, and I was translating his commission report into practice and reforms in teacher education. I said, if you have to design a curriculum, tell me what all kinds of learning theories you are studying, what meaning it has, by the way, unless you know the application of that in teaching learning in context, and more particularly in schools. Therefore, I said, if you have to design a curriculum, could you design theory, practicum, internship? Wherever, whatever you would like to do, do this. But can you define this categorically? Here is the theory which can be translated through varieties of activities into this practice, and I can engage a little more. And I said, 1 semester within the school, a student has to be there to practice teaching and learning and school complex alignment, everything, co-curricular activities. So theory, practicum, internship. Therefore, apprenticeship. Apprenticeship has become very important for us. Development. Do you design within your curriculum how a human individual student personality development will actually take place vis-a-vis your discipline? This is very important. Self-efficacy, providing students the freedom to have choices and to also handle themselves, their own metacognitive skills for teaching and learning, which the teachers have to be aware of. If the students are using their metacognitive higher order learning and the teacher is not able to handle that, then the student will not engage with the teacher, will not engage with teaching and learning. This is very simple. And social development, because we live in a community and society. Your teaching and learning cannot be separate from the community, society, and family and culture. Therefore, to what extent we are associating these with that. And therefore, friends, design of MOOCs, when you have considered, you have to design the learning environment. I talk about the learning management system, and we are using today Moodle. Moodle is largely used as the learning management system, learning platform today. The Of course, it has limitations because it's an open source, free of cost. The paid or proprietary platforms, when I was teaching, even in University of Maryland at a distance, after my Fulbright, even in Fulbright when I was teaching, we were using WebCity. WebCity is today, even was, and is today, the most versatile online teaching learning platform today. Anything, everything is possible in that. The second was Blackboard. And I understand the WebCity has bought already the Blackboard. They become one company. They become the most powerful today, extremely versatile. But the learning management system, free of course, that we're using, it's called Moodle. There are many others. And Moodle is also equally versatile. You can do so many things. I will show an example as a case study of my program, which got a national award as the platform, Moodle platform that we teach. So learning environment, design, so design of environment, design of teaching learning, design of interaction, how it will take place, design of assessment, and design of transfer of learning into the workplace, into the world of work. This is what needs to be designed. You think that the present MOOC or the SWAYAM platform doesn't involve all kinds of design principles over there, and therefore it is limited to 4 quadrants. Therefore, friends, I would like to submit to you, there's nothing good or bad. What I'd like to submit to you, that when you consider designing a blended learning or designing an online learning or designing a 4-credit course for SWAYAM or for your MOOCs to combine with your blended learning, one course you can decide to give online by yourself, you can develop yourself. You need to consider these aspects. I will give a case study example that how these have been translated into practice. I'm very sorry, my PowerPoint is not moving. So there is overlapping, by the way. So the first is pedagogy design. You need to design the pedagogy besides the learning management system. So learning contract, your lecturing, self-direction, collaboration, small group work, discussion, project, case study, forum, the way you would like to mentor or scaffolding, or you like to scaffold the student, the mentoring of the students, these need to be designed. There is a need for a content design, and we have no time to discuss these. We put generally into practice at the National Open University. All my colleagues hopefully are very much conversant with that, because we as a staff training research institute, we facilitate all the discipline colleagues to get into design of, because design is very important. We are very weak in design. We say that a teacher can teach. Of course, the Honorable Supreme Court said that a PhD is not an essential qualification for teaching, which is good, and PhD is not an essential qualification today. But then there must be some qualification called pedagogy or teaching and learning, and teaching learning centers, TLCs, were established in universities basically for this purpose, that they would develop pedagogy of the discipline. Each discipline has its own pedagogy. There are common pedagogies, but each discipline has its own pedagogy, and therefore TLCs were supposed to do concept mapping, learning outcomes, developing resources, designing activities. These are specialized competencies that we need to do, and we need to chalk it down, make it available in public domain for students, for teachers, for parents who are paying the fees, for employers, for the accreditator or the assessor like NAC, or anybody for that matter, for the government, any for international organizations to see. My friend, it's not moving here. And there is a need to design interaction. Your online platform provides a discussion forum, the Second Life, which I have already discussed through the data software, email, synchronous as well as asynchronous. There is a Google group, and there are plenty available. I have jotted down, which are very easy to do. which have a lot more features that you can combine with your teaching and learning. How to support the learners? There is a technology support, metacognitive support, library resources, and online counseling. You can still think of more. So therefore, one example that I'm giving you, friends. So how to enhance your presence as a teacher? You as a teacher, how to enhance your teacher presence? Interaction, self-regulation, motivation, and collaboration. I have jotted down quite a few things which you could consider in designing so that your presence as a teacher, because once you are not face-to-face in the classroom, you are online. Right now we are online, we are synchronous. You have to combine both synchronous and asynchronous. When you do that, how to enhance your presence as a teacher? Enhancing your presence would simply mean how you will enhance the quality of your teaching and facilitating students' learning, basically. So therefore, this PowerPoint talks about that, which I would proceed to the case study part of it. I'm very sorry, friends, the PowerPoint. These are cases, if you could see on your screen. I will move to present two brief cases to show that how this has been translated into action, how these have been internationally acclaimed and published and awarded, and how they are doing as a common, usual day-to-day practice in their universities. There are many, but I have some, I am acquainted with this, therefore I'm talking about this. In my Fulbright, when I was working almost 15, 16, 17 years back, a story I'm telling you, that my colleagues, professors, they designed a semester curriculum based on the social technologies and social networks. This was based on a wiki platform. Facebook joined into that, and the blogging and other aspects, collaborative aspects, interactive aspects were built into this. There was no online teaching learning platform, either proprietary like WebCT or open source like Moodle, but this was a wiki platform. You all are acquainted with wiki. So they took the wiki platform, they designed that wiki platform as per their requirements. What was that? First, they provided context. They designed the context. They designed the discourse, the teaching and learning. They designed that. And action, how the students will put that into practice. They designed that. Basically saying that that action would simply mean that how to design for a surrogate work environment or surrogate community of practice. Because it is online, you are not face-to-face, but in online also there can be a design for the actual community of practice, actual workplace, or actual something. In science and technology, they would call it in a lab or the virtual lab. The virtual lab is very difficult to handle. It's not happening. It needs a lot of bandwidth. But this is very simple that you can design. So this is what does it mean by action. Then the reflection. What kind of context that you provide to the students to reflect on what they have learned and what they have done as a practice. They will reflect on that. Because friends, this reflection contributes to seriousness in quality of student learning. Not only reflection, but beyond reflection, they went to reorganize the whole thing. They came back. Based on the reflection of each individual student and the professors, they redesigned, reorganized the whole thing, and started re-looking at the kind of concepts they were teaching in the discipline. And finally, this led to what is called a socially mediated cognition. Cognition, you understand, but socially mediated cognition. That each student's cognitive exercise were made available to other students, and therefore they were negotiating with a high level. Simply means that negotiation of meaning at the highest level of human intelligence, in a way. This they designed, and they achieved higher order learning, and which has been published. So basically, what they were doing. So they decided the context. We have already discussed about context, friends. The discourse, the teaching learning processes, the action, the apprenticeship, the application of that, reflection, we have already discussed, reorganize the whole thing and do a socially mediated cognition of a high order. Meaning thereby, what I'm trying to say here is, friends, that a social platform which is free of cost could be used by these colleagues to achieve higher order student learning. Meaning thereby, that these technologies that are available to us will have no meaning. Forget about MOOCs, forget about SWOT. It is a very high order. These will have no meaning unless we pedagogically design that from the point of view of our own discipline based on our own understanding. Because if the twins learn very differently, even two teachers teach very differently. What is right or wrong? There is nothing right, nothing wrong. Constructivism simply says, everything is fine on this earth as long as God is in the heaven. So don't worry, be happy. That's what it's like. Everything is important. Everybody is important. What is good and bad? It's good for you, bad for me. It's good for me, bad for you. So it depends on perception. The point here is that we have to find out positive things for everything. If we do that, our teaching and learning, which is positive, which is not negative, would lead to certain kind of course, you could argue the case that if there are thousands of students, how could you do this? I mean, scaling it up would become very difficult. But then in online, scaling it up is possible. That would simply mean that you will have professors who would appreciate how the design has taken place. And therefore, they will gel into that. And they could also bring in their uniqueness into that. That's what it's all about. I mean, there must be variety and flexibility and inclusiveness in that. There's nothing right or wrong in saying that. So let me get into one example as a case that I would like to present to you, friends. This is a case study I'm presenting based on what I discussed, all that I discussed. We tried to apply in a postgraduate diploma, which was a blended course. It was neither fully online nor fully face-to-face. It was a blended course. How did we do this? If I go to the second PowerPoint, yes. So we brought in, insofar as content is concerned, open education resources. So the entire program, one-year program, was based on open education resources. And some of the resources which had copyright, we got the copyright clearance. Point number one. So the self-study of open education resources. Point number two, that the students were doing activities, collaboration in the discussion forum. They were doing assignments. They were doing a whole lot of activities because this is learning about online learning by using open source technologies and software. One is to learn about technology also. One is to learn about Moodle, also how to design, develop, and offer a Moodle program, which they did as a part of the project. So this was a very technology, this was learning technology in a way, learning pedagogy and learning technology and applying to your own context, whether it's agriculture or business management or community service or women entrepreneurship or human rights or whatever the case may be. So they learned about technology and pedagogy, and it was done online. Of course, there was a component of face-to-face interaction. So therefore, in the Moodle LMS, they did a whole lot of things. Then there was interaction in the Google Groups. You know about Google Groups, but we brought in Google Groups to design interaction and brought in assessment of that. We said that your interaction will be assessed from these points of view. These are the indicators that we will take forward to evaluate, to assess your interaction. Then every week or fortnight, there was a lecture like this. But that lecture is not a Zooming lecture. We use the Adobe Connect platform, excuse me, which is extremely versatile. And it was not free of cost for the virtual class because open source was available, but we brought in to be very sure that people who are paying, they should not be dissatisfied insofar as interaction is concerned. So in the Adobe platform of teaching learning, this is called a virtual class. And you present from your home, from your office, and students are sitting in the homemakers in the kitchen and the workplaces and somebody somewhere, and they would go to 1 or 2 hours for your lecture, for instance, and they would all connect. 4 kinds of things are possible there. 1, that you can talk and interact. People are visible to each other. 2, that you can upload and download. 3, you can also type out SMS and kinds of things and interaction takes place in typing. And 4th, that students can also connect to something as they call additional web resources. No, instantly you can provide additional web resources, connect to a YouTube and kinds of things. That's possible. They're very versatile platform. We paid for that per student. Then there was a compulsory face-to-face hands-on because they had to learn. I will show you. They had to learn some of the snaps. I will show to you to ensure the points that I have discussed are available the way they have been done. So the face-to-face hands-on is basically to learn the open source technology and software to design, develop, deliver, and evaluate a module-based online blended course, which they will do. So what is the learning outcome? Learning outcome of this program is that you will be in a position, finally, that you will be able to design, develop, implement, and evaluate your module online blended course in agriculture or health or management or IT or whatever you are doing, and that you will present as your portfolio for evaluation. That was the idea. And we also used examination online, and there were e-portfolios. Portfolio was a part of this. We don't bring in portfolio to our teaching and learning, unfortunately. If you say that you are teaching management, you are teaching law, management is always taught by cases. Law is always taught by cases. But why can't we bring in case studies to almost all disciplines? Portfolio is an important part of that. When my son from University of Delhi graduating, he went to study an MSc Public Policy in University of London. He said, there is 1 or 2 lectures a week. I said, what for I'm paying for you? He said, no, this is 1 or 2 lectures, whole lot of self-study and whole lot of portfolios that you need to do. The teachers would check your portfolio. What is high order learning, by the way? We are not bringing in portfolio to our teaching and learning friends. You might be doing it, but this is what I'm suggesting. And final examination is also online. Now on your screen that you see that the kinds of ability or competency that we need, because when you have to teach as an online teacher, you are alone. You have to play almost all the roles that are listed over here, except that there will be a technologist who will be providing you web support and technology support to you as well as to your students. Except that all these roles that you have to do yourself. And it needs an additional competency and new competencies that we need to have. Now, friends, let me show you my example, how that you see on your screen, how learning was active, interactive, accessible, mediated, engaged, and student experiencing in practice. All these principles that are written here, we have translated into that postgraduate diploma, which I am going to show you. But before that, let me tell you that our assessment strategies included computer marked assignment, tutor marked assignment, discussion forum itself, interaction in the community of practice, that is the Google groups, face-to-face workshops, their development of audio, video, blog, and wiki, their online presentations, their online individual as well as group projects, their portfolio. These were the aspects that we consider for assessment and awarding grades, and finally the degree, the postgraduate diploma. The pedagogic strategies that we followed are listed over here, friends. Very simple, but very difficult to do. I'm bringing back what I said earlier. The direct instruction was virtual class, their presentations, interactions, guidance for open education resources. This was basically instructivist. There was learner-learner interaction with guided mentoring by myself and my colleague, because the student number was only 100. So therefore, if you were to scale it up, you have to bring in more instructors and more professors to teach. And this was certainly, and their interaction in Google Groups, this was certainly constructivist. They were authentic tasks. Tasks were very much authentic, and the task itself was a model project that they had to do themselves. Authentic because it was model that we can see, they can see. It was authentic because they have to bring in their practice. Somebody is in agriculture, somebody is a school teacher, somebody working in Adobe, somebody in Microsoft, somebody is management, somebody is social science, somebody is a human rights activist. All these people, they have to bring in their context to develop an online blended course. Whosoever the target audience, they would define the target audience and so on and so forth. Learning nuances were there. There was a 2-week face-to-face workshop to learn about that. This was more about psychomotor. Reflection on practice, because always there was a weekly or fortnightly discussion forum. Because our entire year's program was divided into weekly chunks. Every week it is divided into so many weeks. So there was discussion forum, and discussion forum is a serious deliberation reflective platform, as you know. There was self-regulation because they were developing their e-portfolio themselves with guidance and mentoring from us. So therefore, a whole lot of self-regulation was possible because each individual student was doing their own project. No two projects were similar. And finally, online 24/7 technology support was being provided by my colleagues. She was providing, or else the university web support was providing that. So a few snapshots about that, how it happened. This is our platform, because I cannot provide you an access to the platform, but I can show you how it was active. That I'm presenting here, and my colleague, she's also presenting to a whiteboard, which is called a smart board, and the resources are available here. And my presentation, for instance, myself presenting here. So kinds of things that I have snapshots from our platform that I have brought in. How interaction asynchronous took place through email and Google Groups, and Google Group is also an asynchronous. It is not online at the same point of time. So if it is not same point of time asynchronous, the reflection is more. If it is same point of time, right now we are the same point of time, reflection is much less. You will reflect maybe after my presentation more than what is going on right now, and which is an excellent part of teaching and learning. And if we can build into the program, that will be very nice. So therefore, friends, my PowerPoint is how engagement took place, discussion forum, quiz, online class, blogs, and wikis. So each student's record is available, which you can see that each student, how they are doing. A student cannot see the other student, but you as a teacher can see other students. So how the student blog is doing, this is a part of the blog, and kinds of things that happened, which each student was doing. An online examination was taking place. I'm missing something. No. So online examination took place. Online examination took place. Myself and my colleague and the student is presenting in the online examination. But when the final examination took place, we had to have the external expert. The external expert, I think in this case, in this PowerPoint that you see, the external expert, oh my goodness, it's not moving. Eh? So that's right. Professor Uma Kanjilal, my colleague, we invited her to become the external expert, and she's taking the class and student. What the student is presenting? The student is presenting in a Moodle platform that we provided to the student from our Moodle platform, a chunk. They are presenting how they designed their teaching and learning in that Moodle platform, designed, developed, implemented, and finally, the evaluation report they are presenting. So they're presenting their case. So each student takes 2 to 3 hours to make a presentation of the case that they have done. And they have already sent the Moodle platform for the examiner to see online how they have done it. It becomes so easy. Everything is recorded, everything is transparent. So it was very, very easy to do, provided. And therefore, it was not surprising, friends, that Sri Pranab Mukherjee, the then President of India, is giving us the award, myself and my colleague, as the best innovative award in the country for ICT innovation. So friends, thank you very much. I have given you some idea about open and distance learning, about technology, the way it can be applied, pedagogy, how it should be considered, and MOOCs, what are the merits and demerits, and how online courses should be and blended courses should be. And I gave an example of my Fulbright colleagues in the US. They achieved that, which many others in US and internationally are following. They're authorities, by the way, today. Many others are following them, and I gave an example of our postgraduate diploma with the principles that I discussed how we have applied. Friends, to conclude, I would simply say that we must appreciate and understand before we act. And number two, pedagogy should lead technology. And number three, keep it simple. There is a television advertisement which says, keep it simple, stupid. And the product sells very well. So keep it simple. So friends, thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'll be very, very glad to respond to you.
Thank you, sir, for a nice presentation and lots of information we gathered. Any question from the participants, please?